Hey there, everybody. It's Elagatua, and I'm going to be back doing another commentary on this upcoming game against matrix26. This is a little different matchup than last time. I've got Tribe, and this is going to be against his Dwarves. My move here is a little bit simple, so instead of talking about this move so much, I'm going to start off by describing the matchup and my overall game plan for this game. See, we've only played... we both played two moves already, so we're picking up things a little bit in the middle, but nothing's happened so far. Nobody's expended any items or anything. Let me show you his second move here. Alright, so deployed the Paladin there and moved the Grenadier up a smidge. Not too threatening, but a nice safe move from him. So this matchup, Tribe versus Dwarves. This is, in my opinion, a slightly Tribe favored matchup. I think if both players play equally well, Tribe will win most of the time. But in general, the game is so balanced that unless you are at the very, very, very top end of skill, any matchup is winnable, despite what are some minor imbalances between the squads. Now, why is Tribe at an advantage in this game, or in this matchup? Well, the biggest reason is Spike Shields, and Spike Shields are the Tribe unit that returns 33% of the damage back to attackers. And the reason this is so powerful is Dwarves units do lots of AoE. So gunners do AoE into the 3 squares ahead of it, and grenadiers do AoE to all squares around their target as well. And annihilators do the same as grenadiers, although their damage is concentrated on the target unit, but they still do some damage to the surrounding units. Now, this actually works against Dwarves in this matchup, because if you put a Spike Shield on any of the surrounding units, say like if I had a unit here or whatnot, when he attacked this Axe Thrower, it would do minimal damage back to the Grenadier because of the Spike Shield, but any damage is enough to pop the Engineer's bubble on the Dwarf unit. So it's very hard to keep Dwarf units with their bubbles on their important, highly upgraded units, which makes it a lot easier for Tribe to pick them off with their very powerful offensive capabilities. That really emphasizes Tribe's ability to pick off the powerful units. There's two ways that Dwarves can try and play against this. One is find pickoffs on 2 units with Spike Shields without using drills, and in that scenario, the Dwarf player would be able to use the remaining 2 drills on the last 2 Spike Shielded units to clear them off, and then there would be no way for the bubbles to be popped by the Spike Shields. Or the Dwarves can go very aggressively after the Shamans of the Tribe, and if they're able to focus their offensive items on the Shamans and bring them down, well, once Tribe can't heal themselves, then you just turtle up, and it's a Dwarf specialties of just turning into a gigantic fortress huddled around their crystals, and Tribe isn't going to be able to attack into it. Now, the first strategy, where you remove the Spike Shields, can be very powerful if you're able to accomplish it, because if you have a bubble on and there's no way to pop it through Spike Shields, then the Tribal Rage, which is the Tribe special ability, where if you stomp a unit, all their units get powered up. That ability becomes pretty useless because it goes away after the first attack, and if that first attack's on a bubble, then the extra damage doesn't mean anything because the bubbles can absorb all that damage. So it's really good for Dwarves if they can get there, but a skilled tribe player is going to be very careful about how he deploys his spike shielded units to prevent the dwarves from getting easy pickoffs. So that's the state of the matchup. Now let's talk about this map. This map is a really, really great map for tribe, and the reason is these train tracks, and especially because of the placement of this attack tile. Now generally, you want to keep your upgraded units far back, probably on an attack tile, or on your side of the map, somewhere in here. But what tribe can do is tribe can sit an axe thrower here and tidal wave units up to the train tracks, move the axe thrower to this side here, to this square, hit the unit on the train tracks, and the axe throwers are going to do lots of damage because the unit's going to be at full health, and then the axe thrower can just go onto the stomp tile there that deploys the train, and it's almost a guaranteed unit kill. And so even if the dwarf player is keeping their expensive and powerful units, their highly upgraded units, back here, there's still a danger from the trains. So there's just another added threat onto the already significant threat of the tidal waves on this map. So axe throwers are going to be very valuable, and I'm going to try and use them to get pickoffs. Now, what I did with my last move, my turn before this, is I had a shaman in hand already, and so I forced him to attack me. My game plan right now is I want him to spend his time attacking my units instead of being able to build up a large force on the board, because he had to spend 4 moves last round attacking me. 1 to move the grenadier up, and 3 to deal with this axe thrower and to do some damage to the witch. And he had to do that. He had no choice, because if he had left these 2 units alive, I could have tidal waved this grenadier up onto the train tracks and attacked him once with the axe thrower and once with the meat, and that combination will kill any dwarf unit that only has 1 defensive upgrade. So that'll get through his shield. Now if he adds a helm on later, that combination won't work anymore, but it would work while he doesn't have a helm. And then that would KO him, and then with the remaining AP I could corpse explode it with the witch. So he has to do something about that possibility, and the natural thing to do is attack, because I've not shown my shaman. Now I know that I have a shaman, so it's perfectly safe for me to undo all his work by deploying the shaman, bringing it onto the attack tile, which is where you want to keep your shamans, if you can do it. And then I'm going to heal up, and move down, and I'm going to heal this axe thrower again. He's up to 635 HP, which is fantastic. And now he's on this bottom attack tile, or a bottom train tile, and so he's still threatening any unit that comes on here. And I've undone his work. Pardon me for that sneeze there. I've undone all his work attacking these units here, and I've developed my shaman on the attack tile. And so now he's going to have to figure out what strategy he wants to employ. I also have great follow-up to this, because I can sword my chieftain, got a sword in my hand, and put a lot of pressure on. And I think what I may be doing shortly is I may be moving my witch up to this train tracks here. I may move the shaman, or maybe the chieftain behind him, and then I may sword the chieftain. And that's going to force him to deal with that threat, because I can always heal units up very quickly through the links here. I can cover all those units with this shaman on the attack tile, so he's going to heal for extra damage. It's a really strong formation, and I might be able to bait out either some item usage from him, whether he has to deploy a scroll or a drill or something, or if he just stomps a unit of mine, that's good too, because that's going to give me rage, and I'm going to be able to trade against him. The biggest weakness of this is that I do only have 1 shaman. And I really would like to draw into another one, because he could take a gamble and go like 1, 2. It would have to be with the Grenadier, but he could come up and go like 1, 2, and hit my Shaman 3 times to KO him, which trade away his Grenadier's life. But more likely, he could come up like 1, 2, and attack this warrior here, and do the splash damage on the Shaman to test to see whether I have a second one. But matrix26 is a very defensive player. He doesn't actually take very many risks, so I'm not too worried about that, because he doesn't have a way to stomp my Shaman. And he doesn't do YOLO too much. So I'm not too worried about that, especially early in the game. So I think I've said everything that I need to about this turn. So I'm really hoping for another Shaman. A Spike Shield would not hurt either. Spike Shield would be really nice. Oh, wow, I got another Shaman. Whoa, that is so good. Okay, so I'm completely safe, and what I can do is, move that witch up here, move the chieftain here, and then deploy the Shaman, and eventually have the Shaman here. And basically I'd be creating 2 kind of walls of units here, and they can just heal each other very quickly. And if I push forward, I'm going to be able to get a trade. And trading is what you want to do against dwarves. You want to get 1 unit for 1 unit. Because if you're trading 1 unit for 1 unit and you're trading offensive units, dwarves only have 7 offensive units. They've got 3 Grenadiers, they've got 3 Gunners, they've got 1 Annihilator. And if you can trade 1 for 1, well, he's going to run out of offensive units faster than you are. And I just had a game against him where it was the same matchup, and I traded really well against his units, and he had to sword a Paladin, put +3 on a Paladin by the end of the game, because he did not have enough offensive units. And it cost him hugely, because, yeah, +3 Paladin, you can't kill it, but if you don't have any offensive firepower, then Tribe can just run around and kill your crystals, and you just can't do anything. Because the warriors and the axe throwers, they don't need to take all your HP away. The warriors, as soon as you're at half health, you can just execute them down. And it was a huge liability for him. So that's something that this aggressive positioning by myself is going to force him to account for. I'm going to try and force him into difficult situations through that. So that's a very interesting move. Generally not a fan of sorting Gunners in this matchup. I think that Grenadiers are better, usually. Now it's interesting because I have a choice here. Because I think this is actually a terrible move for him. I think he's made a grievous error, and I'm going to punish him for it. So let's see if you can spot the move. It should be pretty clear. I just talked about it in the last video. Hint, it involves this axe thrower. Hint number 2, it involves this train. Alright, well, you've had enough time. And that is why Tribe is so good. If that train KOs a unit, then it will stomp it automatically without using any extra AP. It's beautiful. Now, there's actually another variation on this move that I could do to get, oops, don't want to do that, get the Grenadier instead. Which would do something like this. And I personally think that killing Grenadier is more useful than killing the Gunner, but I don't want to have to use both tidal waves. is much better just to use one. Additionally, this damages the paladin and saves the tidal wave, which is very huge. This is assuming that he comes back with this grenadier here and kills my axe thrower. This is probably enough of an advantage to win the game off of on its own. Getting a +2 unit for a tidal wave is it's devastating for him. Yeah, and not only that, but this paladin becomes exposed too. Let's say he comes back here and then here, hits the axe thrower twice. You'd have to move his paladin all the way back. Well, I guess he can move it here. One. I mean, theoretically, like, I could send this warrior up to two-shot this paladin. If he doesn't move the paladin, then I can actually bring it down with the witch because it's at 540 HP. So 600 damage will actually KO this paladin. So that's 3 attacks from the witch. So he's in a world of hurt right now from this move. The only reason I haven't locked in this move yet is because there is a possibility that he could try and go after my shaman. And I just want to explore that possibility briefly because he might be desperate enough to try and go for that. And the play would be for him to like move here or move here. I don't think it really matters to one of these squares and scroll. No, that doesn't even work though. Yeah, that doesn't even work. He would have to, because this XR is 635. What he really needs to do is he needs to kill my shaman. He needs to kill my XR. If he tries to stomp my shaman with anything, then I will just take this grenadier too, which makes things even worse for him. And I already have the second shaman. So I think his only play is just to give up the ghost and come back and KO the axe thrower. Yeah, I think this is only play because he can't kill my shaman and stomp it and save the grenadier. He can do 2 of the 3, I think, with a really severe expenditure of items. Also, this warrior can 2-shot the grenadier too, if it's in range, or it's not. It's a 2-shot, but it's 3 AP, I think. So you meet, attack. I will KO this grenadier. Because meet does 550, but with the shield, it's only 440, because it's minus 20%. But 440 is exactly half of 880, so it brings him down to execute range. So that's a possibility too. But there's just loads of options to deal with this grenadier, and it's going to get real dicey real fast for him. So yeah, this is a no-brainer. Like, this is round 7, so this is my 4th move, and this is like a game-winning play. So I'm really surprised to see an opportunity like this open up, but we'll see. Maybe I'm missing something. I just doubt it. Yeah, this map's good for tribe, and that's case in point right there. Okay. So, remember last time when I talked about controlling the game? This is a great example of being really good at controlling the game, because I mentioned this exact move in my last discussion, and I said how I was going to counter it in my last discussion as well. So this there's not too much to discuss as far as what my move is going to be this time, because we had pre-planned for this exact scenario with this move. Like so. So that's another victory for me, I would argue. I get a unit, and I'm probably going to trade away this warrior for it, which is fine. Though he may have trouble actually being able to stomp this warrior, because this it's this far back, and it's hard for him to get a unit out here to stomp it. So he may just have lost his Grenadier for free. Otherwise, he's going to have to give me Rage. And that means he's going to have to either like bubble up this Grenadier. But can he even do that? Either like one bubble attack. He would have to move to this square here, and leave the Grenadier on that square. I'm not sure if he would actually do that or not. That seems like a pretty bold play, but I'm not sure I could totally punish it. Well, I could punish it by taking his Paladin instead. Anyway, there's lots of good options here for me. If he tries to stomp this warrior, and if he doesn't, then I just got a Grenadier for free, which is even better than trading away the warrior for it, although I wouldn't mind it trading away the warrior, because that will give me Rage, which will threaten this Grenadier. But yeah, super simple turn. I'm not sure if he's playing on tilt, or whether that was just the best of bad options for him. But I don't think his move is going to accomplish that much, and I'm really rolling pretty hard this game right now. So nothing more to say about this. It's just an easy submission. Interesting. So he turns one card, but again, he's having to spend all of his time killing my units, which is good. And he's killing units while I have a Shaman on an attack tile behind it, which is really inefficient for him. Now, there's two options that I have here to play. Actually, there's more than two options, but there's one option that I need to decide whether I'm going to go for it or not. And here it is. So this play turns out to be really good if he does not have another Paladin. But it's also risky, because if he does have a Paladin, then he just heals his first Paladin up to full, and then KOs my Grenadier, or KOs my Grenadier. That's not what he's going to do. He's going to KO my Warrior. That's a Warrior, not a Grenadier. I'm crazy. And then I'm going to probably lose a unit, and he's not going to lose anything. So he's going to get a unit for free, which would stink. The odds that he has another Paladin, in my opinion, are pretty low. I think it's very unlikely that he has one, because I think that if he had one, he would have used it already to try and heal up that low HP Paladin that he has in the deploy tile. And he only turned one card, so the odds of him having drawn another Paladin are pretty low, because he's only got one chance out of what was 20 cards, but it's not 20 cards, it's actually 20 minus 5 or 6, because he has 6 cards in his hand. So it's roughly like a 2 out of 14, either 2 out of 14 or 2 out of 13 shot, but and that's like roughly 15%, maybe 20 to be generous. It's like a 20% chance that he's got another Paladin in his hand, assuming that he's not trying to bait me into this move. However, I already have a pretty nice advantage in this game, and I really don't need to be taking gambles. I'm pretty gamble averse right now because with the way this game is going, as long as I just play it out nice and safe and trade efficiently, I'm probably going to end up winning. So I just don't think there's any need for me to take this risk, even though I think there's a really good chance that it could work out well for me. And it's not like I don't have other good plays. So let's look at some other good plays to see what I can do. You don't want to take risky moves when you're ahead. You only really want to take risky plays when you're really sure that the odds are in your favor and when you're behind and you need to make a play to get back into the game. That's when you're going to lose anyway, so you might as well take a gamble. But here, I'm playing great, and I've already got a big advantage, so there's no need. Now this Grenadier is actually in danger because he's a little bit low HP already. The problem is I can't stomp him, but he has to keep killing this warrior, or he has to heal the Grenadier or put a shield on it in order to keep this Grenadier safe. And there's also the train tracks to worry about too. So there's a lot of threats on the board for this Grenadier. So as long as I stay the course, and remember he's attacking into the Shaman on the attack tile, so every time he KOs these two units, he has to spend 3 AP to kill him, and I can spend 2 AP to heal him back up. So in the long run, that's going to work out great for me, and I'm going to end up with a development advantage. What I really want to do is he hasn't deployed any engineers yet, so this chieftain is going to be really strong because he can get across the map really quickly. And I would love to get some spike shields out, especially on the chieftain, just to make attacking into these well-positioned units even less inviting. So turning cards is good because I just have a handful of meats right now. And there's a good chance that I'm going to draw into something else. Pretty much anything other than what I have in my hand already is good. So as long as I don't draw a meat and a tidal wave together, that would have to be like the exact thing that I drew. Pretty much anything other than that is good for me. Like spike shields are good, units are good, swords are good because if he rages me, I can pop a sword and a meat, and that's enough to one-shot a powered up Grenadier. So that would be an additional threat for me to put on as a surprise. But yeah, this isn't really a decisive move for me, but I just want to keep the snowball going and keep putting on the pressure. Maybe I'll force out a attack item from him, like a scroll, or maybe he'll mess up and put his Grenadier at risk, or maybe he'll just be forced in a position where he has to give up a big chieftain bomb. Yeah, I could put the game out of reach. But that last exchange with the Grenadier turned out to be really smart because I ended up getting that Grenadier for free. I saved my warrior and I KO'd the Grenadier, so that was awesome. That was just a freebie, and I've kept the pressure on him. So my strategy is working. I just need to stick with it. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay, Axe Thrower and Warrior, perfectly good. Axe Throwers especially are strong. I've already used one earlier to pick off the gunner that was upgraded. So getting him out on the board is another strong threat because Axe Throwers are the best unit when meated because they get that extra 200 damage onto a full HP unit. So a meated Axe Thrower is going to do 1025, while as a meated anything else is only to do 825. That's a pretty substantial difference, so I'm happy to have him in my hand and hopefully continue to press my advantage here. Alright, so he's spent another 2 AP to take out my warrior, and he's deployed a Grenadier and moved it down. It's a very interesting play for a number of reasons. Fundamentally, this game is a little bit of a stalemate at the moment because he has to kill my warrior in order to keep his Grenadier safe while he tries to develop the board. So he can't really attack with anything adventurous, and I can obviously heal up very nicely from the Shaman on the attack tile. So I think this pattern is going to continue, and I'm okay with that because I have the board advantage right now, and eventually I'm going to build up the board to a state where he's going to have to trade with me. And as long as we're trading evenly for units, it's to my benefit. But first, let's evaluate the Paladin trade. And this move is still out there for me. Where I can KO this Paladin to take a chance that he doesn't have a second Paladin in exchange for this warrior. And I still think it's a bad play. It's a risk, and strategically I don't need to take any risks because I'm pretty far ahead. So that's one reason. But there's a second reason that I think he's trying to bait me into this move because he knows I play very aggressively. And this would just end up in me losing a warrior for free. And the reason is that if I were in his shoes and I had one Paladin on the board that was a very low life, I would try to be developing as many cards and turning as many cards as possible in order to find a second Paladin so that I was safe from a move like that. But he took the move to move this Grenadier down. And instead, if he could have turned 2 cards by putting a defensive item on this Grenadier or swapping an item potentially or deploying another unit up here. But he didn't do that, which leads me to believe that he's not actually fishing for turning cards too aggressively, which also suggests that he actually already has what he needs and that he's hanging on to it to try and get this warrior for free. And even if it's not the case, I don't need to go for it, but there's no need for me to take a risk and have him be able to get back into the game more evenly when I have plenty of good moves that just involve continuing this stalemate and drawing things out a little further. So with that in mind, I want to heal up my units and deploy more. Especially I want to get this Axe Thrower on the board, because if and when he stomps another unit, Axe Thrower is one of the best units to have to use with Meat and Blood Rage, because it gets that extra 200 damage against high HP units, which can make the difference between KOing a unit or just getting it very low. Now, in order to do that, I also want to get this Shaman onto the train tile here. And the reason that is I want to be able to safely put units on my column here that has the train without having to worry about them getting either KO'd or damaged by me moving on my own train tile if I have to move units around. Additionally, it provides a way for me to keep my Shamans separated but able to heal each other, and then it also allows me to establish very far forward while being able to heal my units very quickly for a lot of HP. Now, the way I have to do this is in a very specific order in order to be as efficient as possible. So, first, if I just move my Shaman there, I end up knocking my Witch back. But I like the place that my Witch is at already, because the Witch is threatening his Grenadier. So, I want to move my Chieftain down first, and that way this Witch can't get knocked back. Next, I want to move my Shaman on there, and you'll notice that that train did 280 damage, I think, to the Witch, or something like that. Anyway, it left it at 100 HP, which is the important thing, and it didn't stomp it. And it's interesting because it was at 280 HP and the train does 400 damage. Well, turns out that if you trigger your own train with your own units, and you have a unit that's standing on it, it won't actually be stomped and KO'd by your own train. It'll just be brought down to 100 HP. So that's a little quirk there that you should keep in the back of your mind when you're playing on this map. Not many people come into contact with that trick. And the reason it's great is that extra 280 damage doesn't actually matter for me, because I need to heal this Witch twice in order to get this warrior up here back up to 375. So that extra damage is just going to be healed away by the shaman to begin with, and it doesn't hurt me any. And now I've got the shaman on this train tile, so I don't have to worry about that scenario anymore. Lastly, I want to place this axe thrower up here, and then this axe thrower is going to be able to bounce up to that tile in the future and get involved in the game. Additionally, this move sets up this chieftain to be threatening this tile here, because the chieftain can charge onto this tile. And now, if he KOs this warrior, I can tidal wave this grenadier forward and meet the chieftain and end up stomping with the witch to put this grenadier at risk. So he's going to probably have to invest in an engineer if he has one, or he's going to have to figure out a new plan in order to keep himself safe. I'd really love to draw into a spike shield here. Right now we are engaged in a back and forth of 2 AP, where he has to spend 2 AP to KO this warrior, and then I have to spend 2 AP to heal it with this shaman here. And that's fine. Even trades are okay if they're not advantageous to either of us, but it slows the game down, and I think that's okay for me because I have a pretty firm grasp on the board right now. I'd really, if I draw a spike shield, then I can put the spike shield on this chieftain, and every time he attacks this witch, he's going to take a little bit of splash damage onto this grenadier. And that's going to make it, in the long run, not 2 AP for 2 AP trading anymore. He's going to be doing damage to himself, which is going to put him at risk. So it'd be really nice if I could draw that pretty shortly, because I have not actually used a single spike shield this game, and I've only lost 1 unit, which is nice. But I'd love to get the spike shields out there, because that's a major nuisance in this matchup for dwarves. But yeah, enough said about that. I think we're ready to lock this move in, so let's just go for it. Oh, another meat. Yeah, that's disappointing. I now have all 4 meats in my hand, and I didn't need another one. I had 3, and that's annoying. I may end up having to swap some of them out of my hand. I mean, it's not too bad of a hand, but it's just not useful. The difference between 3 and 4 meats in your hand versus having a spike shield or having another sword or whatever, it just doesn't really matter. More card turning. Turn 2 cards and KO a bunch of units. I can heal up, certainly. Small note, when you heal up, generally you want to target the unit that is alive, because when you are reviving units, they don't get the full effect of the HP gain because they're being revived. But the unit that is alive does. So if I were to target this witch, for example, it's only 150 versus 75. So it's a lot more efficient to target this chieftain first. Then they both get healed, and now after second heal, both my witch and my chieftain are up to high HP. That's nice and efficient, but this play is still here, and it's just a weird, I don't really understand what he's doing. He's like not responding to any of my plays. And I actually think that now is the turn to be aggressive, because there is actually an opening for me to really take it to him and do a lot of damage, I think, that I want to go over, and I think I'm going to end up committing to it. So I'll just go ahead and show you the play here. And it's to come in here with the chieftain, go up here, meet, which is going to heal up this chieftain, and then, because this grenadier is getting the boost from the paladin, can't KO him, and I can actually get both this paladin and this grenadier. Now, yeah, I'm losing the witch and the warrior, but for the possibility of taking out a +3 unit for pretty cheap, a single meat, so no tidal waves, potentially I would have 2 tidal waves and 3 meets for the remainder of the game, and he would only be able to have 1 +3 unit out on the board, as well as only 1 sorted unit. And really, his only remaining threats would be the Annihilator and the last Grenadier. It's just a little odd. I would think that if he had drawn any Engineers, he would have played them. I would have thought that if he had other Paladins, he might have played those. But this is a really strong move, and the reason it's a strong move is that it forces him to lock in a lot of AP in predictable ways. So let's examine the scenarios here. And what we're looking for is the worst possible scenario for me that he could pull off based on his available items and the available cards in his deck. So obviously the worst thing that could happen is he could have a Paladin, right? So he could have to deploy the Paladin, so that's 1 AP accounted for. And then he's got 2 units that are down here. Now he's probably the highest priority unit to save is the Grenadier. So that's 2 AP accounted for. And he really needs to get this Grenadier up to a high amount of HP. So we need to use the beer on this Grenadier. So that's 3 AP accounted for. And now he's got this Chieftain up in his grill. And he's got no easy way to deal with it. The only way that he can KO this Chieftain is by spending 2 drills to bring him down. It's the only way it can be done. While preserving his Grenadier. And even in that scenario, this Paladin's gone. He doesn't have enough AP to save it. So in the worst possible scenario where he tries to save his +3 unit, he is spending a beer and 2 drills, and he's still losing the Paladin. So if we do the calculations here on total items that would be lost, he would be losing the Paladin, so that's 1. The 2 drills, that's a total of 3 now. And then the beer for a total of 4 units. He'd be losing 4 units. And I would be losing the Witch and the Warrior and a Meat and a Chieftain and a +1 Chieftain, which is a total of 5. So it's 5-4 in the worst case scenario, which is not outrageous as far as item swings go. But even in that scenario, I think that it would provide a pretty good tactical advantage for me. And that is because if he has to spend both of his drills on my Chieftain, I will have 4 spike shields, and he will have 0 drills, 0 ways to get rid of them, and he's allocated all of his swords now. So he's got the sword on this Grenadier, and sword on this Grenadier. Doesn't have any left. He's going to have to try and attack into an army with 4 spike shields that are going to be popping bubbles and doing damage to his AoE units. And it's just going to be really, really difficult for him to win a long game. Now, I haven't managed to draw any of those 4 spike shields, but in a long game, that's really positive for me. The downside is that if he can turn, in that worst case, he would have a lot of tempo because he'd have a Paladin and 2 heavily developed units, and I would basically have like 2 Shamans and an Axe Thrower and a Warrior and whatever I draw. So he's going to have a lot better units on the board, so there might be a little bit of time where it gets a little scary for me because he's going to have a lot of good units. But this is only the worst case. And think about what items he needs in his hand for this worst case to happen. His hand must be exactly 2 drills, 1 Paladin, and 1 beer. He must have all 4 of those items. Any other scenario is going to be substantially in my favor. I don't think he'll be able to save the +3 unit. And really, as long as I can get the +3 Grenadier, it's going to be good. It'll also bring him down to 2 Paladins. So if you were to lose another Paladin, he'd be pretty crippled. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But that's the only combination that can save him. And it's pretty unlikely. And at some point, you just have to say, like, I'm going for it. When your odds are this good, he's got 16 items, and he needs a specific combination of 4. He does have 2 Paladins, and he does have 2 Beers. And if he doesn't have either of the Paladins in his hand, it's just done. Like, it's just over. Because he's gonna... He'll be able to take out my Chieftain, but it's a great trade. Absolutely great trade. But yeah, I think that this is clearly the best play. And so I'm just going to go for it and play to win right here. So let's do it. All right, I got a Witch. That's good. Still missing those spike shields, but in the worst case scenario, I'm going to be able to get a Witch out on the board. And if the Witch is out on the board, that means in the worst case, his Grenadier is going to be beard up. So I'll be able to deploy that Witch here and move her up to the train tracks and then just pop the beer right away, so that that's not a concern going forward.